Hey guys, it's Callus. I apologize for the lack of content recently. Been quite busy both with real life and with SPL. That's just kind of the way it goes around this time of year, but my channel is not dead, and when I find the time and when a game comes up that is worthy of the limited time that I do have, I'm going to bring it to you, and that's why we're here today. This is in fact an SPL match. It is between, even though that looks like Marco P, it's between ABR on the bottom and Johnnyg2 on the top. Neither of these guys are on my team. ABR is a Tyrant who we've not played against. We're going to play against them next week. And Johnnyg2 is on the Congregation of the Classiest. We did already play against them last week. So this is a week 3 matchup. I don't think the teams that they're on or their records really matters, honestly. I don't think that your record should affect your team selection or any of that, but just for the context, if anyone looks back on this a long time from now, it is week 3 of SPL 13. ABR at this time is 2-0, and Johnny G in his SPL debut is 0-2. So I don't really want to give spoilers, but I picked this game out for a reason. In real time, this game finished legit 5 minutes or less ago, so this is hot off the presses, but there's a couple things here that I would like to discuss that I think are worthy of taking a look at. So let's get into the game. So like I said, the bottom, Marclock9923 is actually ABR, and then Johnny's on the top. So we'll start here. So Smeargle is almost universally an offensive team. It's going to have, basically no matter what the other moves are, Spikes and Spore, pretty much no matter what. You would think here that he would be max speed or damn close to it, probably outright max, and therefore should be faster than the meta. Whether you go for immediate Spore or not is less clear. I personally would. I mean, Lumberry meta exists, but it's very uncommon, maybe outright rare, and in this case, as a lead, it's even more rare. So I would just be really, really skeptical that it's got Lum here, and it stinks if you do. If you go for Spore, and then it wakes up with Lum, and then just mashes you, you die, but you kind of have to make decisions based on, like, I mean, yeah, that exists, yeah, that's possible, but you have to ask yourself, really, how likely is that? What is the chance that he really does have lead Lum meta here? So I think you're supposed to Spore, and then assuming Johnny doesn't have Lum, he must know the Spore is coming, so he has to figure out where it's going to land. So he goes to Magneton, and it is just Spore. So this makes a lot of sense to me. So for Johnny, he's opting to run a physical offense with Mag, which conventional wisdom says is a good choice against ABR. He's very, very heavy on Skarm Bliss. He's a versatile builder. He can bring a lot of things, but he brings a lot of Skarm Bliss. Therefore, you would think that bringing a Magneton physical offense team is good against him. You want to catch the Mag, or the Skarm rather, with the Mag, and you want to keep the pressure on him and, use Pokemon like Metagross or like Dragon Dance, T-Tire, Salamence, Gyarados, whatever in the back to basically take the decisions and the play skill away from ABR. There's not really a lot to think about when you're staring at a +1 or +2 Mon that's attacking you. It kind of bridges the skill gap between you and ABR. It autopilots. You have to just respond to those things. I've got a physical threat. I'm setting up. What do you got? So I like the selection from Johnny. Whether or not you want the Magneton Spored is really interesting. I think it's a good choice because he looks at this and he goes, well, if he's using Smeargle, that's his Spiker. So he's not going to have Skarmory. So the Mag is probably going to be my worst Pokemon in this matchup. The Mag is probably not going to be that good because I'm bringing this hoping to remove Skarm. He's not going to have that. So this is probably my weak link. So Johnny is probably didn't get the matchup that he was hoping for. He is playing against the Spikes team, but it's not the Spiker that he wanted. He knows the Mag isn't that good, so he lets it eat the Spore. So far, so good. So now back to meta, which again makes sense. There's the Spike. Not a lot of time to spend on this turn. Pretty standard. There's no reason not to Spike there. It's the whole point of lead Smeargle. And the reason that Johnny goes back to meta is because it's completely not threatened whatsoever by Smeargle, even if it explodes or something weird like that. and it's something that has the ability to one-hit KO the Smeargle with something such as Meteor Mash. And he's willing to die for the second lair. Smeargle is as close as it gets in this gen to a suicide lead. It's a Zelf, if you will, in Gen 4. It is going to put a second spike down, and it's going to just die instantly to the mash. So, what we see here, like I said, very aggressive team for ABR. He's willing to trade 2 layers of spikes and the Spore to put the mag basically out of commission. Who knows when it wakes up, in exchange for the life of the Smeargle. Fair trade at this point. They both did, what they wanted to do, I would assume. For ABR, if you're running Smeargle, this is the kind of sequence, maybe not these exact mons, these exact turns, but this is the kind of sequence that's going to happen every game. You're going to Spore something, get a spike or 2 down, and then you die. That's what the lead does. So ABR must be totally fine with this sequence, or he wouldn't be running Smeargle. So this is immediately interesting. So ABR, with 5 pokes on the back, he can go to anything he wants, chooses to bring his meta into the opposing meta. That's got to make you think. We haven't seen anything from this meta. If he is choice banded, and we don't know, then he'd be stuck on Meteor Mash, and he has to get out of the way here. And ABR took over a minute in real time to make this decision. It wasn't an insta-go to meta either. He really thought about it and then went to his meta here. If Johnny's stuck on choice band, then obviously since it's choice band mash, it would be advantage ABR. If Johnny can switch it up to Earthquake here, depending on the set for ABR, that could still be fine. ABR potentially could have a bulky set with Protect that can handle it. It could be impish. He could know that he's really, really fast and highly likely to be faster than Johnny, so maybe if they go blow for blow and trade Earthquakes, that's fine. It could be a bluff. I think on the kind of team that ABR is running, you don't see a ton of mixed meta. It could be, but you don't see a lot of Psychic HP Fire on this kind of team, because it usually has things like Gengar, Jolteon, Offstar that can just really punish Scarman Fori anyway. But it could be mixed. If so, I don't know. What are you hitting the other meta with? HP Fire, I guess? I think the 2 most likely sets on the kind of team that ABR is running, either a bulky kind of physical check with Protect, Earthquake, Mash, Boom, or something to that effect, or an Agila Metagross, which is very common on these aggressive Spikes teams. If he is either of those sets, certainly the Agila set, he's going to be faster than Johnny, and then if he's the bulky set, he may also be faster, but he's going to win the 1v1 if they go blow for blow with Earthquake. So Johnny's got to be looking at this. Obviously, if he's banded, he doesn't have a lot to think about. He has to get out of the way. But now you've got to think, okay, why would he go meta onto meta here? He's got to be confident that he's faster than me. He's got to not care if I switch it up on Earthquake. It doesn't make any sense. With 5 options, he can go to anything here. That's what he chooses. There's got to be a reason. So Johnny, of course, is going to try to figure that out. You would think that Johnny, at very least, is anticipating an Earthquake here. Maybe he's worried that ABR is choice banded, and he doesn't want to eat a CB Earthquake or something to that effect. So I would think from Johnny's end, he probably switches here to something that doesn't get donked by Earthquake, but you got to be careful too. You don't want to be like a Salamence, for example, in case ABR gets cute and just goes for Mash, which I don't think is likely, but it's really bad if he does. So the ideal check here would be something like a Zapdos that does not care about Earthquake or the Meteor Mash, but Johnny may or may not even have that. So he goes to Gyra, which suffices just fine here, and it is just Earthquake for ABR. So had he gone for Mash there, obviously better than Earthquake, but Gyro would have taken that just fine with the resistance, and then obviously the Earthquake is going to blank completely. This confirms what I would think ABR already knew, that this is some kind of physical offense team for Johnny-G, and then in ABR's case, I can't imagine you want to stay in here unless you want to just boom on it. But, yeah, maybe he does want to boom on. It depends on how weak to Gyra his team is. But for now, Johnny gets the better of this exchange. So he DDs up, thinking there's going to be a switch. I get that. This catches me and Johnny by surprise. So he goes for Thunder Punch here. Okay. So he's shown Earthquake, Thunder Punch. And Thunder Punch is usually paired with HP Grass. So we're looking at EQ Thunder Punch, probably HP Grass, and then the last move is Mash, is Boom. Probably one of those. I mean, it could be like Rock Slide or something, since this set does absolutely nothing to Zapdos. But yeah, that's going to catch me and Johnny off guard. I definitely would not have played around or expected Thunder Punch there, but here we are. So this is a big turn for ABR, because now what was a favorable situation for Johnny all of a sudden is not. Now, Johnny can't kill this Metagross, even with +1 Earthquake, pending a crit, of course, whereas obviously ABR will always kill the Gyarados with another Thunder Punch, or hell, I mean, HP Grass, I think, would even be enough with Sand, but we don't have Sand right now. Mash would kill it, Psychic would kill it, Rock Slide would kill it. He probably just Thunder Punches again here to be extra safe and not putz around. But Johnny can't kill the meta now, and the Gyra, unless it has Rest, is pretty useless. And even then, I mean, you're not going to rest here and just eat the Thunder Punch again. So this puts Johnny in a really bad spot. He did not get the mileage out of the Gyra that he was hoping. He may just have to attack here, and it would do a lot to a mixed meta, which is usually not very defensively invested at all. So +1 Earthquake would put a big dent, but nevertheless, you would lose the Gyra here in exchange for doing that damage to the meta. And honestly, that might be Johnny's best bet at this point. It's unfortunate for him that if he does that, he can't follow up with a Magneton like he normally would be able to trap the meta and then just click Thunderbolt and finish it off. He can trap it, but remember, Magneton is sleeping from earlier. He took the Spore from Smeargle, so unless he wakes up instantly, which you sure as hell don't want to bank on against something that you know has Earthquake, that play is not going to work. So Johnny might be resigned here to just going for it. That's what he determines. He just clicks Earthquake, and there is the Thunder Punch. So big damage, as we see. 85% is a lot, but nevertheless, he loses the Gyra here. So that leaves us in what I would say is a relatively even game state. It leaves us in a 5-5. The difference being ABR is these two crucial layers of spikes down, which are a big deal. However, the meta here is on its deathbed. It's at just 15%, not going to take a lot of hits from anything at this point. Maybe ABR can nurse it back to health with lefties, find a good time to get it in later. Maybe he can, get one last EQ or Boom or something off. But right now it's not looking like the meta is going to be around for too much longer. So Johnny takes his time and responds with Heracross. Anything that Heracross does, I guess other than like Rock Slide, but Brick Break would do it, Mega Horn would do it. Heracross does learn Earthquake, believe it or not, but nobody ever uses it. But any of those things would kill Metagross here. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be on Johnny to switch. I think a switch that makes a lot of sense that I would anticipate here from ABR's end would be Gengar, which, like I said, ABR is basically running something to the effect of a Jolteon Spike Stacks team. It may or may not actually have Jolteon, but it's still something along those lines. And these teams are just universally going to have Gengar. It's just the way they operate. These very aggressive offenses. It's almost certainly a Boomgar as well. And I would think that Gengar comes in here pretty safely, whether it's Mega Horn, Brick Break, Earthquake. Gengar cares about none of the above, and Johnny's never Rock Sliding here. So I think this is a straightforward turn in which Johnny picks whatever attack and Gengar comes in. It would be really, really cute on Johnny's end if he took this opportunity to Swords Dance or Substitute. That is a huge D maneuver because he just loses his Heracross instantly to a Boom if he's wrong. But I think that the switch to Gengar is going to happen the vast majority of the time here. And that's something that Johnny, if he has the option to use a setup move, should consider. Both have lefties, so it's not like a Salacara or anything like that. And there is what I think is an obvious Gengar switch. So Johnny going to drop the ball here and go for Brick Break. He did that instead of Mega Horn because he obviously does not want to miss on the meta. But I don't love the thought process here as a whole. I think if you think that there's going to be a switch, then you just use a setup move. Whereas I mean, I guess he thinks, I guess you brick break because you're like really confident it's going to stay in, but I don't know. I would really question how often Meta's going to stay in there. I really would. I think Meta can come in at very least against the Sleeping Magneton. I think it can come in after something else dies and pressure the meta, since Johnny didn't like that matchup before. I think that there's opportunities if it does in fact have Boom to get it in and get some value out of it. I just don't know that ABR is just going to let the meta go for no further value there very often. I think Gengar on this team is really common, so I don't love the brick break there. What Johnny could have done, even if he was 100% certain that the Gengar was coming in, I don't know. I definitely don't agree with clicking Rock Slide there. That's just not the play. But certainly if he had like Sub or Swords Dance or whatever, I think that would have been worth considering. And maybe you even double if you know the guy is coming in. But again, what do you double to? Does he even have a Pursuit Tire? Does he even have something that really wants to fight Gengar? I'm not sure, but I don't love the brick break here. I thought that Gar was obvious, and now I think ABR is ahead. Not miles and miles ahead, not game in the bag ahead by any means, but nevertheless ahead. So here's Bliss, which makes it even more interesting. That's not typically a Mon found on these physical offense teams, so it's actually closer to a balance for Johnnyg2. This is an interesting like ABR counter team, if you will. ABR does run a good amount of special offense, so I understand the desirability of the Bliss. He's also a Gengar fan, so again, I understand the desirability of the Bliss. So he's got like a nice little ABR counter team here. He's trying to mag the Skarm. He's trying to apply physical pressure here. Heracross is a cute pick. Gyarados is a cute pick. And then he's got the Bliss in the back. So I totally understand why Johnny chose this team into ABR, and I do like the pick. Whether or not it's going to work out, I don't know. He didn't get the Sky matchup he was hoping for the mag. Right now, this is a close game that can go either way. But I definitely, now having seen more of it, at this point I go, hey, this makes a lot of sense. I really like the choice that Johnny made for this matchup. So we've shown only Thunderbolt here in the one turn that Gengar has attacked. Almost always, like I said, the Gar on this kind of team is a Boom Gar, so Johnny has to be really aware of that. The Blissey potentially could be really valuable here, but it could also not be. It really depends on what's in the back. If you're looking at like a Jolteon or an Off-Star kind of thing for ABR, then the Blissey's really, really valuable because those Pokemon otherwise would run you over. But on the other hand, if you think that it is more on the physical side, if you're thinking that he's got a DD Tar, a DD Mens, those kind of things in the back, then the Blissey is not that exciting. But I mean, I would argue at that point, then why does the team even have a Boomgar for ABR? Well, what's the point? Why do you care about killing Blissey if you're super physical in the back? So I would think that there's at least a couple of special threats in the back for ABR, whether that's like an off Coon or some kind of Coon, off Star, Jolteon, something to that effect in the back. So Johnny should be aware of the possibility of Boom. I'm not saying I'd Boom this turn if I'm ABR. That doesn't make a lot of sense at 100%. But he's got to be aware that it's probably there. So no Sand from either one until this turn. That obviously is going to take lefties away from a number of things. And this is a good turn for Johnny. I like this pick against ABR as well. I like slowing down the game. I like taking some of the skill out of it. I like making it so sometimes, even if ABR makes the exactly right move, he's just going to get paralyzed. I really, really like the team selection. The more I see from Johnny, the more I like the team. He's going to go for T-Wave, which connects, but instantly gets lummed away from the previously unrevealed Tar. To me, that means we're looking at either DD Lum, which is most likely, or a Pursuit Tar that is bound and determined to kill Gengar no matter what. I don't care if you hypnosis me. I don't care what your bullshit is. I'm killing you. I think the DD Tar is a lot more likely in this scenario. Usually these really offensive teams, which like I said, I expect are going to have at least one or two special threats in the back for ABR. Usually they do not care that much about Gengar. They can pressure it a ton offensively, even though it is tough to switch into defensively. And I don't think a Pursuit Tar makes a ton of sense unless you're looking at like Coon plus Mence in the back, for example, from ABR. Both are pokes that really, really want Gengar to not be there. Most likely looking at DD Lum. And the T-Wave from Bliss, the most likely set becomes S-Toss, Ice Beam, T-Wave Soft. That's not the only set that it could be, but that's the most likely scenario. It is possible that he's cheating and doesn't have Ice Beam. It could be like the old school aromatherapy, seismic toss, soft boiled T-Wave, especially if the Gyra did have rest or something like that, and he is trying to wake it up with aromatherapy. But I would think there's probably Ice Beam somewhere. Nevertheless, we know that the tower is not choice banded now, obviously, because it popped Lumberry, so it's really, really tempting if you're Johnny to Thunderwave again here. The thing where that can really backfire is if you get Focus Punched on. Again, Focus Punch and Lumberry on the same set doesn't happen very often. I personally wouldn't be too worried about that here, because it's a weird pairing. He probably doesn't have that. So I think if you're Johnny, you're supposed to T-Wave again, and like worst case, you eat like a non-choice band Rock Slide or Brick Break or something. I think that is a fair deal. So I would certainly T-Wave here. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? A Celebi comes in, or like a Flygon or something, a Swampert comes in. It doesn't... I think you can T-Wave here with not a lot of consequence. So that's what I would do. And usually these teams that ABR has don't really have a lot of status absorbers. There could be like a Super Celebi or something in the back, but he's probably not going to have a lot of options to respond to the T-Wave, honestly. It's kind of going to be what it's going to be here. Let's see what he does. So it's interesting that he has Pert here. And it is T-Wave again, which even, I mean, results-based, hey, that didn't work out, but I agree with the T-Wave. That's what I would have done there if I were Johnny. So T-Wave blanking on Pert, you gotta at this point go, okay, what's the last gonna be? And at this point, it's just gotta be a special threat. It doesn't make sense to me that it would be like DD Ments in the back. I mean, it fits, kind of, but like, I think that it's a DD Tar. Not that 2 DDers is unheard of by any means, but I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. I mean, why do we have what I'm like positive is a Boomgar, and I don't know. I mean, why aren't we just running Mag if we have all these physical Mons? I mean, to be fair, we do have this mixed meta. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like you're just a little sketchy against Skarm. If it were something like a DD Ments in the back, I mean, yeah, I mean, the T-Tower would be struggling to get through the Skarm. We don't know what kind of Swampert it is, but like presumably it doesn't do very much against the Skarm. It just makes more sense to me still that it would be like a Jolteon, a Coon, or an Offstar, something to that effect in the back. The Swampert here is either the defensive backbone for the team, since we know the meta is not a bulky Protect set, or we are looking at something like an Off-Pert with Focus Punch and Speed EVs and Special Attack EVs, whatever, or even the less common Endeavor Pert. We're going to find that out pretty quickly. So, Substitute makes it real clear. I mean, Sub Punch, in the most technical and loose sense, does exist. Swampert does, in fact, learn both Substitute and Focus Punch, but that's just not a set. People just don't use that ever, ever, ever. So Substitute is basically universally Endeavor Pert, which, if there were any doubt, we're going to see it is not gaining lefties either. That's going to pretty much confirm what we already know. So looking at Endeavor Pert, and now Johnny has to figure out how he wants to manage that. Blissey is certainly a poke that is threatened by Endeavor Pert. The Sand is in play. Johnny does have a couple of Sand immune pokes, so like the Endeavor Pert maybe gets a 1-for-1, but should never get a 2-for-1 here. And the next couple of turns, there's not too much to think about. I'm just going to let it kind of play itself here. So pretty standard so far. ABR just subbing up, getting down to really, really low, down to 1 HP, down to Endeavor range, down to Salic range. He's going to pop down the Endeavor here to put pressure on the Bliss, and then this S-Toss is going to knock the Pert into Torrent range and Salic range. That was well played to do it early for ABR, but unfortunately this is one of those turns, this previous turn, 14, where ABR and his beliefs about ADV are going to come back to bite him. He is in the Church of Accuracy. He is a devout worshiper at the Church of Accuracy. This man uses Surf over Hydro Pump, Flamethrower over Fire Blast, Thunderbolt over Thunder, etc., etc. He does not want to miss ever. And I respect that, and obviously his results speak for themselves. However, in this case, the Surf comes up just short, leaves the Blissey at 4%. Clearly Hydro Pump there. If it hit, obviously it can miss. Had he connected with Hydro Pump there, he would have killed the Bliss. So this is one of those times, situational of course, where Hydro Pump probably would have been better. Nevertheless, Blissey gets the soft boiled off, and we're back to this. The Swampert is one Seismic Toss away from death, and Endeavor does have limited PP, 7 left. There's way more soft boileds than there are Endeavors, but this is a pure mind game at this point, because Blissey can die here to Endeavor plus the sand. So, back and forth. Endeavor brings her to 11, so it doesn't kill on its own with the sand, but it brings her really, really low and leaves her effectively dead with the spikes on the ground that Johnny almost certainly can't remove. It's not going to be Last Poke Clay Doll or something like that. It's not just the world's worst Mag Doll team for Johnny-G. Letting these turns play out because they're relatively straightforward. They're just playing the mind games back and forth about, are you going to attack? Are you going to Endeavor? Johnny outplays ABR on these turns. He maneuvers that really, really well. So he gets the Blissey all the way back to full health with the soft-boiled spam. And then ABR is actually going to opt for Roar as opposed to going for more Endeavors. Perhaps he thinks the Blissey is something that is going to realistically stall him out. There's just way more soft-boileds than there are Endeavors. Perhaps ABR thinks that it's better to get the Endeavor off on something else since it's not going so well against the Bliss. Nothing else on Johnny's team has the ability to learn a recovery move other than whatever the mystery last poke is, and certainly if ABR had revealed the mystery last poke, that would have been fine. Why not get full information? He doesn't know what the last poke is right now. You know, if you find that out, that's fine, and then you still just click Endeavor. So I get why he went for the Roar here. That makes plenty of sense to me. And now it's on Johnny whether he wants to let the meta eat the Endeavor, or whether he wants to go to something else. But usually in these situations, the play is just to attack the Endeavor pert. Don't let it get out of hand. Don't let him pick his target. Don't let it roar you to death and abuse the spikes. Very likely here, Johnny will simply click an attack, eat the Endeavor, and get rid of the pert. So there is the Endeavor, 20% on meta now. And there is whatever attack, almost anything would do it there. Happens to be Earthquake, and down that goes. And interestingly, we see this matchup again. So he did it before and he does it again. ABR likes his meta better than the opposing meta. We now know a lot more about them, and they both have lefties, but we also do see now what ABR must have known all along since he went to this matchup in the first place, which is that ABR's meta is faster here. You see by the lefties here, for those of you less familiar with ADV mechanics, the Pokemon that gets hit by sand first is faster. The Pokemon that gains lefties first, which is going to be the same as the one that gets hit by sand first, is faster. So it could be a speed tie, but that's unlikely. Based on this information that we see right here on the screen, it looks to me like ABR has the faster Metagross. So Johnny's going to pick up on that, and he's well aware that the opposing faster Metagross has Earthquake, already been shown. So now Johnny's meta is in danger here, and he doesn't look like he has anything that wants to take an Earthquake. The Mag would just die, even though he's at 100%, and he's still asleep. Obviously, the meta at this HP would not survive. The Heracross could take an Earthquake, but he's got to be worried about the other moves here. If you do think it's the last two moves, HP Grass and Boom, for example, then the Heracross is actually pretty safe other than the Boom. And then you could actually consider going to Blissey here. The Earthquake would not do too much. She wouldn't love it, but like she'd be okay. And then obviously none of the special moves threaten Blissey. So like you actually could really consider going to Blissey here. And I think there actually could be value in preserving the Metagross if you're Johnny. Because remember, you know that your Blissey, maybe your Magneton too, but he's asleep. But you know that your Blissey has Thunder Wave. So like you can make some of this stuff slower than you. You can paralyze it, and you can set up a situation later in the game where meta comes in, even if it's really, really low, and it has the opportunity to attack or simply boom on a paralyzed opponent. So I personally, I don't know that I would give up the meta here if I'm Johnny. I think you can go to Blissey, seriously, or Heracross, but like, given the weird set here, which has its pros and cons, Blissey's actually relatively safe. So I would really consider that if I'm Johnny here. So he sees it differently and he gives up the meta. I want to get on record that I don't agree with this play. Like I said, I think he could have gone to Heracross or Blissey relatively safely there, and I think there was still value in the meta by paralyzing something and doing something with it later. So if I want to offer, a point of critique, a point where I think Johnny made a legit boo-boo here, I don't agree with giving up the Magneton, or the Metagross rather, in this situation. I don't agree with that play. But that's what he did, and here we are. So now he follows up with Heracross. I don't really love this follow-up. I mean, given what you did, this is a fine follow-up. I meant more that I don't love it in that I don't think it's going to accomplish that much. You could click Brick Breaker, Megahorn again, either of which would kill the Metagross, but the problem remains, isn't the Gengar just going to come in again? Isn't the Gengar still at 100%? Unless he does have like a sub or a Swords Dance or some sneaky like HP ghost thing that he hasn't shown yet, I don't see how this gets around the problem of Gengar just comes right in and walls you all day. But we'll see what he's got up his sleeve. So here is the Gar, and it's just Megahorn. And you see how unexciting that is. It's just 25%, even though Heracross has such a high attack stat and its stab. I mean, Gengar doesn't even need Fire Punch to beat you here. He outspeeds you, and he can legit just click Thunderbolt or Ice Punch and just beat you 1v1 here. So it doesn't seem like that exciting of a sequence to me. If you know that, from Johnny's seat, if you know that like by letting the meta go, your best follow-up is to Heracross into what's going to be Gengar, just thinking a turn or two ahead, I don't know. I just don't really like this outcome. It just doesn't seem that good to me. I just go back to maybe you shouldn't have let the meta go, because where did this get you? I mean, I'm still waiting. I mean, maybe Johnny does right now. Okay, I gotcha, HP Ghost, but he's certainly not playing in such a way where it looks like he has something like that. So now he goes to Bliss. So, I mean, clearly doesn't have like HP Ghost or something, because you would just go for it there. It's Thunderbolt. Again, we need to consider the possibility of Boom here, but Blissey is otherwise safe. Here's T-Tar, and I really, really, really disagree with this play from Johnny. I personally think this was the worst play that Johnny made all game. I see no reason to not T-Wave here. Whether you hit the meta, the Tar, or the Gengar, all fine. The absolute only thing I can think of here is that, I guess I can think of two things. He either was playing around Taunt from the Gengar, which, like, who cares? Or he knows the calcs and is positive that this meta will not live this flamethrower, but can or will live the following flamethrower, assuming he comes in on T-Wave, and he gains lefties. So basically 33% he would die, but 39% after lefties he wouldn't die. I don't think that's going to be the case. Like I said, mixed meta has usually not a lot of bulk whatsoever. It's investing in speed. It's probably max special attack. It might have some amount of HP, but like realistically, it probably doesn't have a lot of bulk. It probably doesn't live the flamethrower unless you're totally uninvested from Johnny's end. So I think that flamethrower doesn't make a lot of sense there. He's either playing around Taunt or trying to snipe the meta. Either way, I think T-Wave is just way safer there. I don't agree with this play at all, and I think it was a mistake. So now we're here. We've seen only Lum Pop from Tar. Now he goes Rock Slide, so it certainly looks like DD Lum. And there's a flinch. Rock Slide again, which is going to live at 1%. and he gets the soft boiled off. So we're playing the RNG game here. ABR fishing for rock slide crits or flinches. Johnny obviously looking for a dodge. He wants to get to the point where we can safely get a T-wave off, and I agree with T-waving now from Johnny's end. You don't want to keep soft boiling. You don't want to just give him a million opportunities to find the crit, find the flinch. The second you can T-wave safely, you should do that, because now you're faster. Now you can't get flinched, and you could just soft boiled a bunch of times until the T-tar full powers out. So I don't love the flamethrower when the tar came in, but I think that Johnny played this sequence, the rest of it, correctly, and he's now going to be pretty safe with his bliss, pending an unexpected focus punch or a really untimely crit, such as right now. Instead, ABR does go for Dragon Dance, which isn't very surprising. And now Johnny has to think. What do you do now? He doesn't seem to have a bulky water, so you're not going to switch into your non-existent Pert or non-existent Coon or what have you. You could stay in with a Bliss, but we know the full set, and it's a weird set. Thunderwave, S-Toss, Soft-Boiled, Flamethrower. So what are you going to do? Seismic toss it to death as it DDs up on you? DD-Tar, even though it's paralyzed here, and it's definitely relevant that it is paralyzed, actually seems like a real threat for Johnny. He may have no choice but to go to Heracross here. Hell, he may even have to sacrifice something, probably the Magneton, and then go to Heracross here, which is not a good situation. But it depends on what your last poke is here. If I'm wrong and it has been Claydol, it is just Magdoll the whole time, you obviously go to Claydol here. But I think there would have been opportunities earlier to go to Doll, get rid of the spikes. I mean, he's been playing the whole game with the spikes. He should have aggressively been trying to get rid of them earlier if that was something he had the ability to do. So it seems really unlikely that it's a last poke spinner. So he goes to Mag. This is just fodder. And there's the Earthquake. It actually is almost like worse for ABR that he killed it there. You almost want to be full parried, DD a couple more times on the Mag while it sleeps, and then completely clean up. Not that killing a poke is bad, but it's ironic there. It almost would have been better for ABR had he full parried. He's obviously not going to complain about it working out this way, and the Magneton could have just like woken up, had Magnet, killed the tower with a couple Thunderbolts, whatever. So like, nobody's complaining. So it is the follow-up para, but it's the exact same problem. What do you do about the Gengar? So far, the answer has been a whole lot of nothing. Here is the Gar, and a critical hit helps immensely there, because now, as long as the Gar doesn't have Fire Punch, and honestly, probably even if it does, unless it's really, really, really special attack invested, the Heracross can survive anything that the Gengar might throw at it, and kill it back with the Megahorn, assuming it hits, obviously, which, again, Church of Accuracy, that's far from guaranteed. But that was a good turn for Johnny with the crit. Goes back to Bliss, nevertheless, and wow, for like the first time ever, I'm going to spare you guys the nurse moment. This is a more serious video and more focused on the analysis. Had this been a color commentary video, you know you'd be hearing my nurse sound effects right now, but I will spare you this one time. Gengar does explode there. I don't know if that was trying to hit the Blissey or trying to hit the Heracross. I think it was just, I'm going to die anyway, whatever I hit, I hit. I don't think it had a specific target in mind. You might as well boom on the way out. As it turns out, it takes out the Bliss. I don't know if that was good, bad, or indifferent for Johnny. It totally depends on the last, but now it opens up the problem for Johnny where if it is those pokes that we talked about, an off Coon, an off Star, a Jolteon, those kind of things, fuck, I wish I had a Blissey. And obviously we don't know the last for Johnny either, so like, maybe this whole time he's been playing with, I just have a DD tower in the back, I don't give a fuck, like, good for your Jolteon, good for your Starmie, I'm sweeping you. We'll see. So there's Star, which I would be extremely confident is an off Star. I cannot imagine on this kind of team that it's like bulky T-Wave or, you know, bulky Surf, Thunderbolt, Recover, Spin. It just doesn't make sense on this team. This is absolutely some kind of off-star. I would think that it's 3 attack spin. Honestly, it could just be 4 attacks. But 3 attack spin is the standard on this kind of team. Usually the move that it doesn't have is Psychic, so it would be like Hydro Pump, which with ABR is probably Surf. Ice Beam, T-Bolt, Recover. If you absolutely need Psychic, you can drop one of the coverage moves for that. I don't know that this team needs Psychic, but it could be there. But most likely we're looking at 3 attacks and spin. Porygon 2 in the back is not what I was expecting, and I would think not what ABR is expecting either. But that is going to make it interesting here. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because all of Metagross, Magneton, Heracross, and Blissey are Dugtrio-able, if that's a word, which it's not. But they can all be killed by Dugtrio. So it makes sense that Porygon 2, which I assume is max defense, ultra bulky with Ice Beam, would come in, Revenge Trap, and kill the Dugtrio, and then free up all those other things so they don't get killed by Dugtrio. Johnny did not find the matchup that he's looking for, obviously. He was hoping to find Skarmory, which he didn't, and Dugtrio, which he didn't. I still like the team pick for Johnny. Really cool, makes a lot of sense against ABR's preferences, but he didn't get the matchup he was looking for. So what happens here? Do you give ABR credit, first of all, that it's actually going to be Surf rather than Hydro Pump? Because that Calc, it really changes things here. 2 Hydro Pumps will kill this Porygon 2 from this HP. 2 Surfs may or may not. It also depends on the Porygon 2 set. Does it have T-Wave? Does it have Toxic? Does it have neither? Does it have Thunderbolt? It's obviously going to have Ice Beam. It's obviously going to have Recover. But what are the other 2 moves? Interesting situation here, and we're going to get to... I mean, the whole reason that I wanted to do this video, there's a couple of interesting things, and I hope you've enjoyed it up to this point. Please hit that like button if you do enjoy it, by the way. If it's been cool up to this point, hit the button. But the whole point of this video was to get to the late game, and that is what I want to discuss. We're not quite there, but we're getting there, and you'll see, but it's worth discussing. I don't like this play for Johnny. I think this is a mistake. I get why he did this. It was just a 50-50. Obviously, if you Thunder Wave again, which would have been the play in this situation, then you feel like an idiot if Starmie just stays in and surfs you. So I get why you recover, but now you're risking getting boomed on and ABR getting value out of this meta that he didn't have before. For Johnny, you don't have too many choices here, so he goes for the recover, and then meta's obviously a threat. But this is very interesting, and this is where we're going to pause. So he goes for Earthquake here, and in real time, these guys both dipped really low on the clock. Johnny went down to 5 seconds on his timer before staying in and T-waving on this turn. And likewise, ABR went down to just 15 seconds on his timer before electing to stay in. So both of them really sweated out here. But this is where you have to start thinking, why the hell, why would he Earthquake here? Why would he Earthquake here? You start deducing the set. Okay, Thunder Punch doesn't make a lot of sense. Earthquake into Hair is not that good. If he does have HP Grass, which all signs indicate that he would, that doesn't make a lot of sense into Porygon 2 or into Heracross. So what's the last move? If he has Mash, don't you Mash there? Probably not Mash. If you have Psychic, don't you Psychic there? Probably not Psychic. And I guess it could be Boom. Why aren't we booming? Okay, well, what are there things you don't want to boom on? What if you boom on the Porygon 2 and then you lose to the Hera? What if you boom on the Hera and then maybe the Porygon 2 gets there against you? Not too wild. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but ABR is going to opt for Earthquake. He feels like he's in no danger here, so he's going to do that. But it's interesting that that's the best thing he can do against the Porygon 2. It's just beginning. The late game fun is just beginning. Here is Heracross now, thinking maybe that'll get boomed on, but it's a full para. This is a huge break for Johnny. This is huge. Mega Horn here is massive. It would kill the Starmie, it would kill the T-Tar, and even if it didn't kill the T-Tar, it'd be so low that Brick Break would, and it probably kills the Metagross here. So as long as you connect with Mega Horn, you're doing work. That was a great turn for Johnny with the Hera and the full para, respectively. And this is a really tight late game. So here's the T-Tire. Boom, Mega Horn. Survives barely. But who cares, because you could just follow up with a Brick Break here, or Mega Horn again if you would like. Opts for the Brick Break, T-Tar dies, 2-2. Really, really close late game, anybody's game. Now Starmie comes in. The two spikes have been there all game. Porygon 2's at only 70 or 78%, whatever that says. Here's Surf, which doesn't kill, and Mega Horn that does. Sand is going to take out the Heracross in a moment. And it's going to leave us in this 1v1. And this whole thing right here is the main reason that I made the video. So let's review where we are right now. It's a 1v1 situation. Porygon 2 has shown only T-Wave and Recover. You know, 100%, it's going to have Ice Beam. So the last move is either Toxic, Thunderbolt, or some weird hidden power such as Fighting, Fire, or Grass. Meta has shown Earthquake, Thunder Punch only. It's had opportunities to Mash that it hasn't gone for, and it's had opportunities to Psychic that it hasn't gone for. And then it may have last move Boom. So before we proceed, I'll go one turn. You guys can't see the chat, but I'm going to point out something very interesting. So, ABR says in the comments, this would be a tie, right? And Johnny says, yeah. I want to talk about that for a minute. Not accusing ABR of anything, by any means. He's not that kind of guy. But in general, this game, just like poker or any other game where you have to make a decision and other players either benefit or do not benefit from your decisions, you should basically never consider what your opponents say. You should never believe them, and you should never think that they have your best interest in mind. Like, honestly, when I read this, because I watched this game live, the moment I saw this would be a tie right from ABR, I instantly thought, okay, he doesn't actually have Boom, because he knows the rules. ABR knows. How many SPLs has he been in? He's been around for years. He was on the TD team. He knows the rules. He knows it's a tie if he booms. So the only reason to say that there is to either waste the clock for Johnny, make him, engage in a conversation, let the time tick down, whatever, or to see if Johnny reacts, or to see if Johnny goes, oh, ABR must have Boom. Okay, he's just going to explode. I don't need to bother recovering this turn. It doesn't matter. He's just going to boom. And then ABR goes, ha ha, crit Earthquake. Gotcha. Why'd you Thunder Wave again, you idiot? Like, maybe it's a mental thing like that, but ABR must know the rules. Why are you asking this would be a tie? So I instantly, when he says that, I go, oh, man, maybe he doesn't have Explosion. Like, if I'm Johnny, that would be an immediate red flag to me. Why would he ask me that? Huh. So it's Recover, and ABR doesn't go for the Boom, even though he asked, would this be a tie? He gets a Thunder Punch crit here, and we're just going to let this play out for a little bit. Now Johnny asks, do we replay? And ABR says, yeah. So again, very much indicating, hey, I have Boom, we can just draw this game. I don't know if that's him trying to, convince Johnny to take a draw. Because, Johnny's a couple Thunderbolts away from victory, but he hasn't shown that. So, ABR all of a sudden, remember, this meta was in the red at one point, is leftying all the way up, and Johnny hasn't gone on the offensive whatsoever. So it might be occurring to ABR at this point, and now we see it. It might be occurring to ABR at this point, you don't have Thunderbolt. You don't have anything that hurts me. We see right here, Hidden Power. So that's neutral against meta. That's Hidden Power fighting. If it were Fire, it's super effective, which is way better here. If it were Grass, it would do Dick. It's HP fighting, which does 11% here. So now we know the full set for Johnnyg. Thunder Wave, Recover, Hidden Power fighting. We haven't seen the last move, but you know it's Ice Beam. But Ironically, because he paralyzed him, which was the right play, now you can't freeze him with Ice Beam. So now if we reevaluate the situation, ABR actually has basically a free roll here. Johnny's basically never going to kill ABR, and if ABR does get into a situation where he starts to get low and he's been paralyzed 3 turns in a row or some bullshit, if ABR really does have Boom, he can just click it and just draw the game anyway. So like ABR always has the out pending multiple full powers in a row, and by multiple I mean like 8, because Porygon's doing like nothing to the meta. ABR has the out to just say, alright, fuck it, I'm out of PP, let's just boom. So basically ABR can potentially win the game with enough luck, but he can basically never lose the game. Johnny should know what the set is here, because this whole time ABR has just been Thunder Punching, and that wouldn't be the play if he has certain moves. We can see, based on what he does have, things that he clearly does not have. If he had Meteor Mash, clearly the out here for ABR would be to get attack raises, and Psychic would function the same way. It would be to get spec drops on the other end. They both effectively do the same thing here. They make your attacks do more than they're doing right now, whether that's via a raise on your end or a drop on their end. The result is the same. The result is your stuff starts to do more. So based on that, Johnny should know, if he hasn't known for a while, that ABR has neither Meteor Mash nor Psychic. So the last moves really probably are HP Grass and you would think Explosion. But I'm still having that red flag from the is it a tie thing. Why would ABR ask that? He must know. It's messing with my head, and it might mess with Johnny's too. So believe it or not, in this one-on-one situation, and given the fact that ABR is a really offensive team, and this game happened pretty quickly, a lot of stuff died, we got down to this 1v1 fairly early, and we're only on turn 42 right now. Believe it or not, this game ends up going 90-something turns. I don't remember the exact number. We're going to go ahead and switch it over to hyper fast here. But this game ends up going 90-something turns. So from ABR's perspective, he doesn't have anything to lose here. Like I said, it's a free roll. He can't really kill the Porygon either without like a lot of power and a lot of luck, because all he's got to attack with is Earthquake and Thunder Punch. If he does have last moves, HP Grass, Explosion, Boom draws the game, and HP Grass does little to nothing. But like I said, on Johnny's end, he's Ice Beaming for 14% there, which is really unexciting. And his Hidden Power Fightings do even less. It did about 11% last time. So basically, they're playing it out because ABR is in a no-lose situation. If he does get to the point where he is, where Johnny gets fully paralyzed a bunch of times and ABR could just finish him, great, you win. And likewise, if Johnny goes down to struggle first, then great, you probably win. ABR can't go down to struggle because of Explosion. He'll never, you never get to that point. So basically he's just fishing for a lot of full para and crits and all that crap. And he has the out of just, all right, it didn't work. We're gonna just click boom and call it a draw and play again with different teams, by the way. And the overwhelmingly likely result in this situation is that it would end in a draw. That ABR would run out of meaningful attacking PP, Earthquakes and Thunder Punches. The Hidden Power Grasses do very little, and that eventually he would draw. If we just randomly stop here, turn 78, sure, why not? We could look at the attacking PP here, and we could see that it's getting really low. He's got 1 Earthquake, 8 Thunder Punches, and 20 Hidden Powers. On this end, he still has 14 recovers. So the overwhelming majority of the time, really, I mean, I don't have an exact number in front of me right now, but overwhelming majority of the time, this game should end in a draw via ABR's Explosion. If he doesn't actually have Explosion, then I don't know where this goes, but at this point I actually do believe him that he has it, because what would his last move be otherwise? It's not Mash, it's not Psychic, If it were like Ice Punch or something, I think he would have been fishing for the freeze earlier rather than the para. So it probably really is Boom, and this game should end in a draw. Here we go. Just wait, game ends very soon. I don't remember exactly where, but it was 90-something turns in that it ended. Any day now. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was 100-something. It ends soon. I promise. Ugh. Do 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 do. Yeah. So that was total BS, and Johnny really, really robbed there. ABR is going to be 3-0, and Johnny's going to be 0-3, but it's like a super undeserved 0-3. Johnny's gotten quite unlucky in several of his games and could easily be 2-1 or 3-0 right now. This one, I mean, you can't say that he would have won. What should have happened is it's a draw, and then who the hell knows what happens in the follow-up game, which, like I said, they would use different teams. But this was an absolute robbery here. So at the end, Johnny is fully paralyzed 3 turns in a row. If he gets a recover off on any of those, he's totally fine. And it's not just that he himself was fully paralyzed 3 turns in a row. It was also that during those turns, ABR was never paralyzed. And it also had to happen right now, too. It was the last possible opportunity for ABR because look at the attacking PP. No earthquakes, no thunder punches, 3 hidden powers. So this was an absolute highway robbery. This was the robbery of the tournament up to this point. Probably the overall, at the end of the day, this is going to be the robbery of the tournament. Johnny, if on any of those 3 turns he's not fully paralyzed or ABR is fully paralyzed, Johnny gets the recover off and ABR can no longer win. He would be resigned to the last move, boom. It would be a draw, and they would play another game. Again, there's always the shoulda, woulda, coulda. Who knows what would have happened? Maybe they play the game and ABR simply wins, and none of this matters. That totally could have been the way that it plays out. But this was brutal. I feel for Johnny, I really do. He's a great guy. He's a friend. He's a nice guy. And he's on a really good team in the Classiest who are doing very well this SPL. But, man, I'd be upset if I were a Classiest team member or manager or what have you. I would be displeased if I were Johnny or if I were on the Classiest. This was just absolute robbery. Not only should this just not happen mathematically at all, but it had to happen right here. Because like I said, ABR out of earthquakes, out of thunder punches, 3 hidden powers left. He needed a sequence in which Johnny was fully paralyzed 3 times in a row, which isn't very likely, and during that sequence in which ABR is also not paralyzed 3 times in a row. And it had to happen right here. Really, really unlikely for Johnny. Crappy finish for him. And I thought that this game, not because it was the world's greatest game, but rather because it is something rare and memorable, I thought this game was worth bringing to you guys. I hope you either enjoyed it if you're an ABR fan or just a Pokemon Sucks Sometimes fan, or you feel terribly and are crying in a deep depression now because you feel for Johnny. But either way, I hope you got something out of this game. Do leave a thumbs up if you got something out of this game. Consider subscribing to the channel for more ADV content. And I have no clue when my next video will be, but I'll be back at some point. And absolutely root for the Tigers this year in SPL. We're doing okay so far, but it's early. Don't jinx it. Show me the love and support. I will see you guys in the next video.